everyone, and welcome here. It's Courtney with Minimally Enhanced, and I have been meaning to put together this eyeshadow tutorial for an extremely long time because I have a ton of customers that say to me, oh yeah, I would really like to do eyeshadow, but I just don't know how. Well, I'm here to put that to bed because we're going to really break down parts of the eye and a little bit more into the actual technique with eyeshadows and how maybe sometimes you find that an eyeshadow that looks great on one person might not necessarily look the same on you when you go to do your makeup the same way. I'm going to solve that problem today. So first off, I just wanted to kind of go through a few of the parts of the eye just so you kind of understand what people are talking about if you hear, crease shade, transition shade, and all that kind of stuff. If I close my eye, this part kind of below the crease or below where my eye folds is called the lid. Then you have the crease or the fold in your eye. That's where people will comment putting either your crease shade or your transition shade. And then you have all kind of the brow area up above, and this is where we kind of classify having that hooded eye. Kind of the outer corner is a little bit redundant because it's just the area of the outer corner. And then obviously you have your under eye and inner tear duct. Those are kind of your basic parts of the eye when it comes to makeup. I am going to get scientific with you guys today because there is a bit of a technique when applying your eyeshadows. And we just have to consider the eye shape and proportions so you can create the most flattering look for your specific eye shape. And another thing to remember is that light colors or shimmery colors are going to attract the light or catch the light, and it's going to bring forward an area that you have placed that light or shimmer color. In the opposite effect, if we use a dark shade or a matte shade, it's actually going to set back or create a little bit of a drop or a shadow in that area. So having these things in mind, we can then take a look closer into your specific eye shapes. And I can help you with this if you're having some trouble, but the couple main ways that I like to figure this out is first off, if you have a hooded eye or if you have just a nice crease, a hooded eye, almost everybody has a hooded eye, even though people kind of talk like it's some sort of rare thing in the eye, but lots of people have some degree of a hooded eye. That's just when kind of the upper brow bone is kind of sticking out a little bit farther, and then you just have this fatty tissue that kind of hangs over your actual lid of the eye. So if this tissue kind of hangs over, I have a little bit of a hood. As you can see, I have a little bit of actual lid left, and then this kind of fatty tissue kind of hangs over my crease. So if I was to put a color just in my crease when I open my eye, that would kind of disappear. So we can kind of play with the shadows a bit that way too. So figuring out if you have a hooded eye really helps your eyeshadow game, and it's a very, very easy fix. Next is kind of just figuring out the outer corner or the angle of your eye. So I like to take like a brush or a spoolie, and you can just kind of line up the outer corner and inner corner of the eye. And if you can kind of see on mine, my brush is now kind of angled upwards. So my outer corner of my eye is kind of upturned. Sometimes people have more of a downturned eye, and this is where we kind of want to play with the shape. That way we wouldn't want to put any dark colors on the outside and drag the eye down. We want to make sure that we have kind of more medium colors and lighter colors, so we're really lifting the eye. Another thing to think about proportion wise on your face is how wide set your eyes are or how close set your eyes are. So if you can take, sometimes people use their fingers and kind of do a measurement, or you can just kind of measure on your spoolie again too, if you can. I have a little bit more of a wide set eye because I can fit my eye width between my two eyes or kind of over my nose. And if your eyes are closer together, obviously it'll be a smaller space in between the two. So that's again where we want to be able to use the shadows and kind of our dark color, which I'm showing you about today, to play with our eye shape. So those are a few ways that just realizing that the techniques and proportions of your face do matter. However, I'm going to say this with a grain of salt, makeup is what makes you happy. You can choose to use whatever colors and put your makeup on whatever way feels best. This is just a little bit more scientific and a little bit more into the reasons why sometimes the eyeshadow look might not look the same on your eye as it does on somebody else's eye. So I wanted to show you a little bit on how to use kind of the darker colors of your eyeshadows just to kind of play up the parts of your eyes. But when it comes to your dark colors, like I said before, there's some ways that you can play with the shadows on your face to really enhance the natural areas of your eyes. So in my case, I'm going to show you a little bit, and I'm just taking kind of a medium matte brown, and I'm just taking it, I'm doing it a little bit darker shade than I maybe would. This is Oak, and I'm just taking it on my eyeshadow brush, and I'm just going to show you how I can kind of play with the shape of my eye a little bit. So I have a hooded eye, so I'm going to come up a little bit higher and bring that crease shade a little bit higher to kind of create a less of a appearing hood. So if I bring that up a little bit higher, you can still see that shadow above my crease. And then the game with eyeshadows is really just blending, but today I just wanted to show you how you can really play with the shape of your eye. I also have a little bit more of a wide set eye, so I like to bring that darker shade a little bit more closer under the brow. It's going to kind of pull your eye a little bit closer together. Again, this is preference, but also if you have close set eyes, you'll want to keep this centered area nice, light, and bright, and focus that darker color on the outside of the eye. That's going to kind of draw the eyes apart and make them look a little bit wider. If I have some upturned eyes, this is a very flattering look, but most of the time, especially if you have downturns, you want to keep this outer shade lighter. So I wouldn't go any darker than like a medium matte tone out in the outer corner, just because you don't want to bring too much shadow in the outer corner. We really want to keep everything nice and lifted, and you really want to be careful not to bring that eyeshadow color below the line of your outer crease, especially if you have a downturn shape eye. So everything's really just pulling and lifting. Once you get your base kind of shadow set up, or base illusion, I guess if we can call that, that's when you can go in and play with colors. So now if I want to deepen that, I could deepen some darker areas or some areas that I might want to look a little bit more recessed. So say maybe I want to keep this outer corner nice and dark. For my eye shape, I have an upturned eye, so I can get away with having a little bit of darker shadow in the corner. And same if you wanted to kind of bring that up into the crease a little bit, you totally can do that as well. That's when you can really play with some of the shapes of your eye. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, or you're wondering, or you're struggling a little bit with your own eye shape, please reach out to me. I would love to give you some one-on-one help, and I can also put together an amazing palette that has some great colors that would totally play with your eye shape. Thanks for watching. Bye.